workshop today and the systemic origins of conflict mineral. We'd like to address the historical context of conflict minerals. We'd also like to address the difference between genocide and ethnic cleansing. In Peter Eichstadt's book, Consuming the Congo, some of the people he interviewed noted that the concept of genocide was more of a Western concept, and within a lot of regions there, they spoke of it as ethnic cleansing, and I feel that that is a problematic issue when you're trying to help a region, any particular region, is that when coming from Western ideologies, if they don't align with the people that you're trying to work with, trying to help them, you're really not going to have a lot of success. The other one is, how would we create an intellectual map of conflict minerals in the world system? And the one that Felipe is going to touch on most is what is the curse of conflict minerals, and why are resource-rich nations unable to convert those resources into national prosperity? I'm going to throw a last question in there, based on some conversations we had recently up until last night. One of the problems that we've noticed in addressing this issue is that there isn't a consistent metric for measuring conflict minerals. Some people measure it by tons produced during legal periods, and tons produced during illegal periods, times of conflict. Others measure it by instances of child labor. Others measure it by triangular trade. Others measure it by actual death tolls. So we'd like to begin to try to define metrics so that when we're doing our research and the scope of work that we produce can be centered around some sort of foundation in terms of these metrics.
Very good. So now we can open it up to a discussion. Evan has framed the questions that will help us move through this discourse, and Felipe has provided a working definition of conflict minerals. So now I'd like to open it up to the group for anybody who wants to contribute their thoughts on conflict minerals based on how we've prompted this discussion.
And feel free to start with the historical context of the first question that was posed.
Or your reaction to the definition we gave, we actually think it's one that fits the parameters.
Could you repeat the definition again?
Yeah, so conflict minerals are, we defined it, it's an extracted and relatively non-renewable natural resource that mainly produces a cultural and political unrest within a political economy. Political economy would mean either a nation, a government, those types of government infrastructure or institutional infrastructure. So this is something we consider we want to base conflict minerals off, so that's the definition we've given it, because later on it has other implications if you turn it into the business part, how this natural resource pretty much comes a whole supply chain, and in each supply chain process there's irregularities, and how that translates later into diplomatic conflict and non-conflict, which is a big component of what conflict minerals do. As I mentioned before, especially Africa experiencing all those different guerrilla groups, rapes, murders, and all those types of harms that are causing it. So that's the base we've given for conflict minerals. We're clearly developing more, but that's for this workshop. That's the definition we're basing off. And if you have any compliments, you think?
And I'd like just to make one addition to that. Even though we included diamonds in our list of conflict minerals based on the history of blood diamonds, they're not actually included in the Dodd-Frank legislation regarding the disclosure and the use of the other 4 minerals that go into various electronics products, munitions products, and a wide range of other things. Even though diamonds do go into certain mining equipment, drill bits, they can be used for heavy-duty machineries, cutting materials, those kinds of things, but they're not listed under that list, which I personally just found was kind of interesting.
So you're open to comments on your definition?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Always. If you have
Okay.
feedback, that's great.
It seems to me one of the main, and of course I'm speaking from a human rights perspective, that a possible weakness with your definition is it doesn't refer to the human rights abuses. You say cultural and political unrest. It's a bit mild, considering it results in the kind of violence and maiming and death. And so I would make it a little stronger, a little heavy hitting with the.
I felt with the term unrest, it just seems really broad. I mean, that could just to me that implies anything. Mining in the U.S., when someone decides to create a new mine and there's protests against it, that could be considered unrest. So it just seems like if anyone takes issue with a mineral or a natural resource, and I don't think that's the goal that we're after. I don't think, and kind of again, I just don't think the extremity and the severity is in the definition.
So a question that I would have regarding that would be, what is the way, how would we measure a human rights violation? Would it be the ICC standard, the International Criminal Court standard, or would there be some other way of kind of hinging or have a point of orientation for that definition?
The document, the most universally accepted document, of course, is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Right.
Every single nation on earth. I think there's 192 or 193 nations, excuse me, at the United Nations. 2 are not. The Vatican, well, of course, South Sudan is new, but the Vatican and I think Taiwan don't sit at the United Nations. But anybody that participates at the United Nations accepts the UDHR. Then there are 10 major treaties, of which many have, there's a couple that are new on forced disappearances and things and the disabled that many haven't signed. But many of the human rights treaties have 100 signers or more. And so I would think, and that's what the ICC would base their, so the definition of human rights is broad. There's 30 articles in the UDHR. But that is the universal standard. And they're broken into civil and political rights on the one hand, which are obviously violated in dictatorships, and then there's economic, social, and cultural rights, which play in hugely, of course, to the conflict minerals. So, and then there's the specific treaties that come out of there, and that's why I also lead into that question of genocide or ethnic cleansing. Genocide is a legal term, and 142 nations, I think, have signed the Genocide Treaty. And the Genocide Treaty includes crimes against humanity. I don't know about the term ethnic cleansing, if that's in the Genocide Treaty. But that is the legal term for, and so you look and see those treaties provide standards that many Western nations who are part of this abuse in Africa have signed. And they should be upheld to those treaties, as well as the African governments themselves involved.
Very good. Would you also say that includes the covenants as well?
Yes, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is only a treaty. I mean, it's only a declaration. Declarations are non-binding. It immediately broke into 2 treaties: the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Now, the U.S. has not signed the Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, so we're utterly guilty there.
Going back to this concept, and even though we have so many countries that have signed it, when you are dealing with fractured regions, say, like DRC, where you have a decentralized government, and you're going from region to region, province to province, and the people that you're actually trying to deal with they don't particularly have a good opinion of the government. And it's the government who's signing on to these documents. When it comes right down to it, the people in these regions and from village to village are the ones who are saying this isn't genocide, it's ethnic cleansing. And those are the people that you're trying to work with. So that creates the problem is, okay, well, are our policymakers really in touch with the people that we're trying to help? And that is why in the course of the research that I've been doing, that's one of a consistent problem that I've come across is that it seems like these decisions aren't made within boots on the ground, so to speak. They're not speaking to the people who are truly being affected by these issues.